Hey everyone, I'm Casey with CReeves Makes. This week's video I'm going to do something a little bit different. Usually when I bring in a new tool, it just shows up in my videos and I don't really say anything about it. I just start using it and showcasing it in my shop. And I get a lot of questions and comments about that tool in particular, my thoughts and my feelings on it, how hard it is to use, how easy it is to set up. So with today's video, what I want to do is showcase one of my favorite tools that I've brought into the shop and the reason why I have two of them here. So stay tuned and let's go over the drum sander. So several years ago, I purchased this drum sander right here thinking that this was the end-all be-all drum sander to have in my shop. For the most part, in a DIY wood shop like what I have here, this sander has been great. Some of the features of this sander are that it's a 1632, which means that you could run a 16-inch wide standard width piece of material through here, or there is a compensation lever back here that when you actuate it, what it does is it pitches the floor up ever so slightly. And what that allows you to do is you run a piece of material through the drum sander at a compensated angle, and then you flip that piece of material around and you run it through again on the opposite side, which could give you that 32-inch width piece of sanded material. I haven't done that very often. The few times that I have done it, I've had good results. Basically what you do then is you mark where the center line is, you go back in with just a regular random orbit sander and you can blend it away and you can never tell the difference or feel the difference across that width of material. For a majority of the projects that I've done in my shop, this sander has been perfect for that application. Mostly cutting boards, small craft projects, little trays and such, small glue ups. Even veneers that I've resawn material down on the bandsaw and then run it through the drum sander to clean it up, and I have gotten really thin results. I would say within a 1/16 of an inch on maple for some small laser projects that I was doing. So this has been a great sander. Some of the features that I really like about it is a compact sander for a small two-car garage shop. It does have a quick lever on it, so if you needed to, you could quickly get the drum head to raise up to compensate for a thicker piece of material. I've used that a couple times. Honestly, it's one of the features I'm going to miss not having on that sander. Another feature that the 1632 has is it has a digital readout right here with a little basically slide rule that has a positioning electronic sensor on it. Basically, as you adjust the head up and down, the electronic portion of the sensor here has a readout that will tell you your height. And the nice thing about that is you can zero it. So you can set the head as a reference off of material. And to be honest with you, I've only used it a couple times, and then I was quickly just going to my veneer caliper to check my material thickness. That's a habit that I've had pretty much since before I got into woodworking, is checking material thickness with calipers, previous careers and everything. I just never really trusted the readouts, and that's more of a personal thing. This sander does not have that function. Basically, it has a zeroing stud here that you can set this indicator to go to 0, and then you can compensate with touching off of the material. Again, I don't go for super high precision with my thickness on a drum sander. If I do have to go to a very tight fit or very high tolerance on the fit, I will use my caliper and I will sneak up on it by just cracking the adjustment on the head height ever so slightly as I go. So both sanders feature the Intellisand adjustment here. So down in front on each sander there is a potentiometer that goes from 0 to 100. And what that is an indicator of speed for the drive belt. So if you're putting a piece of material, say hardwood maple, on the belt, you're trying to feed it through the sanding head at an aggressive pass, you have it turned all the way up to 100, that light is going to flash red saying that you're taking too much at too fast of a speed on the drive belt. So you dial that potentiometer back until that flickering light goes out, and that means that you're at the proper speed to sand the material that's going through. That eliminates burning, that eliminates clogging up the sanding head, having to clean the sandpaper or burning out your sandpaper. These sanders are very similar. This is the 1938, so it has a 19-inch capacity by 38-inch doubled capacity. But one of the reasons that I wanted to upgrade to this sander is that it has the 19-inch wide head. That also comes with a wider belt. So I stage a lot of small parts. So if I'm doing like a lot of small batches, say coasters or little trays or projects even that I do on my laser or my CNC, I will stage material on the in-feed table here, and then I will feed it through the sander and then come over to this side and retrieve it. On this sander here, this has a 23-inch wide sanding belt versus the 17-inch wide sanding belt that's on this one. So I have another 6 inches of material space on this one. So with my tray flipped up, basically I have a whole nother section of material here to stage more parts on. Another reason I upgraded to this sander is I'm getting into building guitars, and a pre-glued body blank can run fairly wide on a guitar. Standard guitars are anywhere from like 12 to 13 to 14 inches in girth or width. That does fit the capacity of the 1632, but the material that you're starting with before you cut that out or shape it is roughly over that size. Another factor that I took into consideration is one of my favorite guitars is a King V body shape, or think of like a Flying V body shape. The max width on those points across that V shape is 17 inches on the finished body. So therefore, if you're going to be making a blank, you're going to be roughly 18 inches or maybe even more. So that falls within the realm of this, where this one, I could not run an 18-inch blank through this sander. I'd have to go one side, flip it, and do the other side. Not that much more work, but still, on a guitar, you want perfectly flat, perfectly planar, and clean sanding surfaces. So doing the compensation on that, I would feel better just going one pass through the 1938 versus two passes on the 1632. Of all the tools that I've brought into my shop, the drum sander has been the one that has quickly been evident that it was a good idea. As soon as I got it, I had a couple cutting boards glued up. You have all that edge glued surface, all the glue drip on the top, rough surfaces on both sides. I have a standard lunchbox style 13-inch planer that I was having a lot of issues with, especially like edge maple and edge cherry blowing out as I was running it through. Even with new blades, I was getting a lot of tear out and blowout on the grain that was going through on the planer. So what I do with a cutting board is now I will glue it up and I will clean all the glue, excess glue squeeze out off the top surface. And what that will do is that gives me a reference to lay upside down and run that through the drum sander. And I'll use an 80 grit belt and clean that top surface off. And generally on a cutting board, I will also scrape off the backside. I'll flip the clamps up on an edge after it's sat for a little bit, and I will scrape as much glue off as I can. So I'm not running a bunch of glue through the drum sander. But I can quickly get the board clean on both sides, doing multiple passes on an 80 grit belt through the drum sander, versus hoping that I'm not going to get a blowout or tear out on the wood that I'm running through on the planer. This unit is very heavy and will definitely take two people to assemble. The head alone is 200 pounds. That is not including the conveyor and the base assembly itself. So it is a very, very heavy system. Definitely get two people or three people to help you put that together. I did build this cabinet for the 1632. I was excited when I did it. I kind of jumped the gun and didn't think everything through. When I did build the cabinet, I did not have the infeed tables. But as soon as I got the infeed tables, I quickly saw the errors of my cabinet design, that I cannot fold my infeed tables down like I can on this unit. I will be building a cabinet for this sander, but I have to put a lot of thought into how I'm going to do it and still get the features of a lot of storage capacity, but still be able to fold the tables down on it as well. The tables are a great addition to any drum sander. I would highly recommend that if you bought a drum sander, that you get the infeed table and outfeed table set for that as well. The base on the 1938 does have a full bottom pan or full bottom tray to store accessories, materials, whatever you want to do onto the bottom, whereas the base for the 1632 just has a frame. So I just took a piece of plywood and dropped it in there and put a little edge lip on it so nothing would roll out. I did add dust collection ports to actually both sanders. You can see here this is the straight one and this is the 90 degree. I prefer the 90 degree one because generally when I'm hooking up to it, putting my rockler fitting onto the straight one, it kind of just tended to pull and was kind of in the way. Whereas this one, I'll run the hose kind of around this backside here and come right in at this angle and just pop it in, and that way this whole area here is out of the way. There's nothing hanging over the belt getting in my way as I'm going back and forth taking material off. And I did the same with this one. I only have the straight one for this one because I put the curved one on this one. This one now has the straight one. Regrets with the drum sander, I'd have to say that with getting a drum sander, I should have just purchased the 1938 first versus just grabbing the 1632 because it was less expensive. They will both do very, very good quality jobs in very similar fashion. There's nothing that this one can do much better than this one. I would say the 1632 is probably going to be fine for you, but if you're getting into bigger projects like my guitar bodies, I also have another project coming up where I have to do a bunch of long length 18-inch wide glue ups, and again 18-inch wide puts me 2 inches over capacity on the drum sander here with the 16. I don't want to take these long length glue ups, run them all the way through, flip them around, run them all the way through again, and then go back and then random orbit sand that long length material several times because I've got several quantities of these long lengths that I have to do. Whereas this one will be one flat pass through the drum sander and not have any issues. The capacity front to rear on these machines with the infeed outfeed tables is roughly 43 to 44 inches, and that's on both of them. So there's no growth on the 1938 in length as far as infeed outfeed goes. The big component there on the 1938 is that extra 6 inches of bed width on the sanding belt versus the 17-inch on the 1632. Putting these tables down is not very hard to do. Basically there's two little detent buttons on the back corners and you just drop them down out of the way. So if you're doing really small batches through the drum sander or just want to have them out of the way for storage purposes, again it's two little buttons and then lift them up and they're good to go. Get a good dust collector for it because if you have a good dust collection system, there's zero dust coming off of this machine. If you do not have a dust collection system on it, it will make a huge mess in your shop. Very, very fine powdery dust will be everywhere. One thing to take note of is to keep the belts clean as much as possible. So I recommend grabbing the rubber block. A lot of hardwood or woodworking stores sell these blocks. They're usually by the cash register when you're checking out. They're like a few bucks sitting there and they're always trying to sell them to you. Grab a couple of these because these are lifesavers, and basically every time I use it, I just run it across the drum, clean it up. Sometimes you have to do it a couple times, so I highly recommend grabbing one of those. The drum sanders are a great addition to your shop. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something out of it. Maybe you're on the fence of deciding whether you even want to bring a drum sander into your shop, or what's the main difference between a 1938 and a 1632. Why one would be better than the other, and so on. Please let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more videos like this. Stay tuned. I am Casey with CReeves Makes, and thanks for watching. Hi, Coda.
Hi.
You can come out, hang out with me? Okay, that's fine. You can hang out. Hi. How are you doing? I love you too. Are you happy? Oh, big stretch. Big stretch, yeah. Yeah. Hi. Hi there. Come here. Come. Hi. Did you just want to... You need some attention? Come here. Come here. Okay. Okay. Hi.